Tough criticisms for the Texas Railroad Commission laid out in a 48-page joint report released today by nonprofit Commission Shift and Texans for Public Justice. The groups claim railroad commissioners profit from the industry that they oversee and make decisions that are in their private interests.
I think it gives the appearance of impropriety.
Despite its name, the 130-year-old Texas Railroad Commission and its 3 elected commissioners have no authority over railroads. They regulate one of the state's most powerful industries, oil and gas.
All Texans should be paying attention to this agency and the way that it makes decisions.
Virginia Palacios is the executive director of Commission Shift, a group independent from the oil and gas industry that's advocating for reform at the commission. Their report highlights numerous cases over the past decade where commissioners failed to recuse themselves and instead made regulatory decisions on companies they have financial stakes in.
It's common sense to the public that you shouldn't have an interest in these companies if you're going to be making decisions about them.
For example, according to the report, Chairman Christy Craddick cast a deciding vote not to fine a pipeline company for a leak, despite owning between $17,000 and $35,000 in the company's stock and receiving $22,000 in campaign contributions from the company.
Which is at least unethical and in most states is illegal. So this is a kind of weird thing in Texas.
UT Energy Resources professor Dr. Michael Weber says while questionable, it's not illegal in Texas.
As a consequence, we have railroad commissioners whose job is to protect the public from the oil and gas industry, but instead are trying to protect the oil and gas industry from the public.
Our own analysis of the 3 commissioners' 2020 campaign donations show, combined, they received nearly $1 million just last year, the majority of it coming from oil and gas, the very industry the commissioners regulate. Palacios' team found commissioners have even received donations from a company while disputes involving that same company are being heard by the commissioners. For example, while their case was before the commission, a Tulsa-based pipeline company donated $9,500 to commissioners. All 3 commissioners declined to be interviewed for our story. Commissioner Wayne Christian sent this statement.
As an anti-oil and gas special interest group, Commission Shift is biased. In the last election cycle, a Democrat candidate for Railroad Commission received the largest single donation in the history of the agency, $2.6 million, from out-of-state liberal Michael Bloomberg. If we're going to reform campaign finance in Texas, let's start by limiting out-of-state billionaires from attempting to buy Texas elections.
Chairman Christy Craddick said Texas Ethics Commission laws ensure transparency of our public officials and maintain the public's trust in our ability to appropriately govern, and I take these laws seriously.
This is a huge problem, and it's not going to change until we in Texas say, hey, we expect more from oil and gas.
To regain public trust in the commission, the report outlines 6 recommendations, including require commissioners, as they do in other states like Oklahoma, to demonstrate no financial interest in the companies they're regulating. Also, limit campaign contributions and strengthen recusal standards.
And we've nibbled around the edges.
But as Tom Smith, former director of Public Citizen Texas, points out, these calls for change aren't anything new. A Sunset Advisory Committee made similar recommendations to lawmakers more than a decade ago, yet little has changed.
Time after time, when we've tried to toughen those regulations at the legislature or in front of the various regulatory agencies, the industries mount a campaign and rebuff them, quietly but effectively. And so as a result, Texas remains open for business, and those that contribute the most typically win the day.
Having just gone through one of the worst natural disasters in Texas history, which cost nearly 300 lives and $300 billion, Palacios says Texans can't afford to wait any longer.
We deserve to have better decision-making at our state agencies, and we know that if we have these conflicts of interest, we're more likely to get biased decision-making. And so now's the time to change it.
In Dallas, I'm Charlotte Huffman.